Weapons hot and one-liners at the ready, recruits. This ain't just some summer blockbuster vacation. This is the real deal. You've been chosen as part of an elite task force for the month of action. Now when those bullets start to fly and everything around you is up in flames, don't you lose your nerve. Remember who you are. You're the toughest, craziest, most resourceful sons of bitches to ever lace them up. We don't wait for backup and we damn sure don't retreat. Now strap your asses in and get ready for the drop. Oh, and one more thing. Before you pull that trigger, tell them John Mortis sent you.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Bucket of Chum, the Shark Movie Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Captain Steve, and today we're taking a look at the USS Indianapolis, Men of Courage from 2016, directed by Mario Van Peebles. And this is a part of the Jaws 50th celebration. We'll get into why in a bit. But today, I actually have a guest with me, so I don't have to endure this on my own. We've got Derrick from Bad Movies, Worst People. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Very excited to talk about Nick Cage.
Yeah, this will probably be the only Nick Cage movie I get to cover on this podcast. So, I mean, I'm at least excited about that. I mean, that gives me a little bit of joy, at least.
Nick Cage and Tom Sizemore, by the way.
We got Tom Sizemore. We got Thomas Jane in here, too. Yeah, we've got people I recognize for once in a movie, which doesn't happen, like, super often.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I said, the USS Indianapolis, I mean, the reason this is part of Jaws 50th is because when Quint is giving his big speech on the boat, on the Orca, this is the event that he is talking about. So I thought it'd be interesting to take a look at the real event. I mean, I'm sure there's some artistic liberties taken here. And if you're looking for a deep dive on the history of all this, we are not doing that here today. Sorry to disappoint anybody who's here for that, because that is not fucking happening. I'm also going to have a lot of opinions, not just on this movie, but on the event itself at the end of the episode, probably. So if you don't want to hear that, then I'm just going to save you the trouble now and just stop, go away. But yeah, so yeah, like I said, this is based on a true story. So I'm just going to get right into the Letterboxd plot synopsis. 1,196 men aboard, 5 days in water, 317 survived. The harrowing true story of the crew of the USS Indianapolis, who were stranded in the Philippine Sea for 5 days after delivering the atomic weapons that would eventually end World War II. Part of the reason. As they awaited rescue, they endured extreme thirst, hunger, and relentless shark attacks. And it has an average rating of 2.3 stars on Letterboxd, which is pretty average for most of the movies I take a look at, surprisingly. It's right around where we usually land, so yeah.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. I've listened to your episode about the kaiju glam metal, and you got some clips on like your reels and stuff. The CG in that is almost better than some of the CG in this.
Oh yeah, we're definitely going to get into that, because there are some very questionable moments in this movie. Usually I do poster expectations, but I have seen this movie before. But basically every iteration of this poster is terrible. There's not really a whole lot of good posters for it. It's like your standard military story poster. Like, you could put this on Battleship and people will be like, yep, that's the poster for it. Like, it's just exactly the same kind of shit. It's a floating head over the ship.
Yeah.
Not really much else going on. So, but yeah, as we mentioned, there's going to be some really bad CGI in this movie. I'm not going to go into like deep plot details for this, because I feel like there's just a lot of this movie that we can kind of just breeze over, and that'll just give us more time to have a general conversation about this movie, because there's definitely things to talk about, but there's also a lot of things to not talk about. But yeah, that being said, let's just get right into the fucking plot of this thing.
Well, like you were saying, how there's a bunch of stuff in here that we can skip, and that's how I felt watching it. I was like, I feel like they had to make it over 2 hours long because it's a prestige war movie or whatever. Yeah. But like, there were so many long scenes of like these sailors and their interactions with each other and their personal lives, and like I get that they're trying to give you some history to make you feel emotions for these people who are, going through this ordeal, but like
Yeah.
none of it mattered. None of that mattered at all. Like we could get Tom
No.
Sizemore and Nick Cage talking, and then the boat goes down, and we're into the movie, and we just cut out the first 40 minutes.
Yeah, like literally basically like I was saying like the first like 20 minutes of this is like we get some background. So like the whole mission of this ship is they are delivering the atomic bombs to the Philippines, and they're doing this without an escort, which isn't typical military procedure. And I think even at the end of the movie, they say like, "Yeah, you probably should have had an escort for this. This was really dumb."
Yeah.
Shocking. But yeah, and we actually see James Remar at the beginning of this movie too, who's
Yeah.
playing Admiral Parnell. He's the one who gives Nicolas Cage and his crew this mission. And Nicolas Cage even asks like, "Oh, is this part of the Manhattan Project that's going on?" Um, and then he gives him like an envelope and says like, "Yeah, open this tomorrow." I'm like, if I'm delivering something and I think it's what I think it is, I would like to know some details. Like, how dangerous is this? Because I mean, this is all new territory back then. Like, the nuclear bomb was literally just invented, and they're just like, yeah, here we'll fill you in later. It'll be fine.
Well, that's my question. Is how does Nick Cage even know what the Manhattan Project is? First of all, because that shit even within the military was very classified. And does he actually know what it is, or does he's just heard this name? You know what I mean? Because like
Yeah.
bring this crate onto the ship, and it literally says 15 kilotons on the side. In my head, I'm like, that says nuclear weapon right there. Like all it says is 15 kilotons, but I guess they don't know that that's how that's measured because it hasn't happened yet. But it's just like I mean, I guess you're going to follow orders because you're a naval captain or whatever. But like, aren't you going to let people know that they have a nuclear weapon? I don't know. I was so confused at the beginning of this. I was like, what is even happening? Can't they just fly it over there?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions as like I said, like they should have had an escort, they didn't, which is just bizarre. And we'll see why that's a little bit bizarre in a second here too. But yeah, like we said, basically the whole beginning of this movie is trying to make us care about certain characters, and I just don't. Like there's this whole scene with the two guys, Mike and Brian, and one of them is going to propose to Clara, the love interest that again we're supposed to care about, and I don't. They even go to their house, and there's like this whole dancing scene, and I'm just like, yeah, fucking skip. I'm like, I don't care about this at all.
But
Like it's just so stupid.
This is how you care about people. You watch them dance. I don't know.
Yeah.
Also, I did get a little bit of a kick out of when they go to the house and like the girl's dad, whoever the fuck he is, the lawyer or judge or whatever, has all these guys over at the house, and one of them is talking to this kid about like, oh, is the war almost over? And the kid's like, yeah, I'm a sailor on a ship. I don't actually know anything. And he's like, well, that's okay because war is good for business. Business is good for America. And I was like, man, it's a good thing things have changed in the last 80 years, huh?
It's so funny too because my history teacher literally said those same things to us as part of our grade 11 American history class that I took. And it was like, yeah, like unfortunately, like war is just really good for business. And I'm like, and these assholes are bragging about it. They're like, I'm like, you're war profiteering right now. Like, I don't know if like that was necessarily a thing that they thought of back then, but like that's what they're doing. Like they're profiteering off of the war. And they just seem to like not care about the implications of this at all. But yeah, I'm glad this doesn't happen anymore for sure.
Yeah, no, we've moved on as a country. It's getting better over here. I don't know if you've been seeing all the stuff going on, but
Everything's fine. Nothing wrong, nothing to see here, folks. Oh my god. So yeah, and then we get like a bar scene where again we're supposed to care about these characters, and they show a little bit of like how there's like a racial divide between like the black and white crew a little bit, but they introduce that idea and then they just don't fully explore it. There's like a few lines here and there throughout the movie, but they don't fully explore this as much as they probably could have, especially having Mario Van Peebles, who is in Jaws 4, by the way, everybody. He plays Jake. So there's our other Jaws connection for this movie.
Well, yeah, and I mean that's it was kind of weird to me because Van Peebles, obviously he's a black guy. I don't know what I'm supposed to say preferably, but he's black. He makes movies. He's made good movies, not this one, but they all have like the two good ones I've seen have like racial stuff. He did his own like blaxploitation kind of take off with the movie Badass with a bunch of S's, and then he did New Jack City, which are both which both have racial stuff in them, and he tries to put it in here, but it's really just this guy Garrison or whatever his name is that works in the mess hall, and then this other generic white guy. Like I had so much trouble keeping these characters straight because they all just look exactly the same. But this other generic white guy that
look the same.
This guy looks kind of like the Temu version of that guy that plays Reacher on the TV show. You know what I'm talking about? Like he's the smaller, less strong version of that guy. But like that's the whole racial tension is just those two hate each other, but they're locked in cages most of the time. And then like they just kind of move on from it. And I'm like, this could have been an interesting story point. Again, we're not talking about the boats or the sharks or any of the stuff, but you could have made something out of it. And I don't know if someone up above was like, well, maybe let's cut a little of that out so the people who are buying this or renting this from Redbox, because I'm assuming that's how it came out, don't feel uncomfortable, you know?
I feel like 100% that's what happened. Like, I feel like maybe he did want a little bit more of that in this movie. And like you said, somebody from above was like, oh, racial tensions. We can't talk about that in 2016, for fuck's sakes. Like,
well, I mean, the movie was written by a producer, so that's not usually a good sign.
Yeah, that sort of fits then.
I looked a little bit into the crew people, like the writers, and one of them is mostly a producer. He wrote one other movie, and then the other guy wrote the first ever movie that was sold as an NFT. So that's pretty cool.
Great.
So those are the guys in charge. So yeah, they're trying. I guess they're just trying to producerize it a little bit.
Yeah, they're trying to appease everybody while being assholes to everybody. Like it's such a fucking. It's like a 1980s way of thinking, really. Like it's just so fucking out of date and antiquated. But I mean, such is the way of Hollywood, and still is. Like, let's be honest, it's not that different. It's a little different, but not that much.
Yeah, I mean, the people you're gonna grab with this cover or this poster, like you said, it's very generic, are gonna be older white dudes who are like, ooh, war, you know. So
yeah,
you don't want to offend them too much, but
yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, we talked about Tom Sizemore. He plays McWhorter, which is I'm not saying his name for the rest of the he's Tom Sizemore the rest of this episode because I'm not gonna say fucking McWhorter the whole fucking episode. But he plays a dick, basically. So he's just being Tom Sizemore, I guess. Yeah. Like there's one scene where a sailor goes into the engine room while he's doing some big speech or something, and he's talking about sharks and how dangerous they are, and he shows people his dove, which just turns out to be a fucking pigeon. But like somebody comes in there to ask him something, and then he just punches him in the fucking stomach and then just like goes away from that. I'm just like, wait, what the fuck just happened? I'm like, I'm missing something because I don't know what is going on here. He's just like, bam, and then like that's it. I'm like,
if you're a 60-ish-year-old man who's still in the Navy and isn't a captain or an officer, you probably got a chip on your shoulder.
Yeah, that's true.
Also, you're Tom
But
Sizemore.
I mean, to be fair, he doesn't seem like he has the intelligence to fucking be in charge of anything except this engine room. I'm like, I'm sure that he probably excels at making sure the ship runs just fine.
Yeah.
But like that is like where he peaks. Like that is his peak level, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like, yeah, I think you're right. He definitely seems like the type of person that would have like a chip on his shoulder for not being higher up in the ranks at this point in his life.
I want to talk about so Nick Cage is doing narration throughout this, and it's supposed to be letters he's writing to his wife, but there's this part when they leave, or at least some of them are, because he starts it with "My dearest Louise" or whatever. There's a point right when they're leaving San Francisco to head off on their mission where the narration just starts explaining in depth what kind of ship the USS Indianapolis is, what its capabilities are, all this stuff. I'm like, why are you writing this? Dearest Louise, my ship is a floating tank. It's pretty fucking cool. Like, you could have had that as exposition in like a conversation with someone, like maybe one of these new kids, like the kid he has to explain what the Kaiten subs are. Like,
Yeah.
he has to explain to him, so he could just be like, hey, by the way, this ship is da da da. It just seems very like, it's like after they were done, they were like, oh, maybe people don't know what this ship is, so let's get Nick back. You know, he's doing anything at this point, so he'll come back in and record some voiceover.
Yeah, he even has one line. I'm pretty sure I have it written down. Oh yeah, there will always be war. And the way he delivered the line just reminded me of Ron Perlman in the Fallout games being like, war never changes. I'm like, it's like the exact same like kind of tone, and it just does not hit the fucking same at all.
No, your listeners probably don't know. Mine have heard about it consistently. This year, I'm watching every single movie that Nicolas Cage has made, outside of a
Yes.
couple animated ones, because I couldn't care less about the Croods or whatever some other stuff he made, Astro Boy and stuff like that. But I'm watching all the movies he actually performed in, and this is one of the sleepiest performances I've seen, and that includes in this section of time where he was doing all those straight to Redbox or straight to VOD movies. Like, there are some of them where I'm like, did they wake him up? Like, is he sleeping on the side? And they're like, your scene's up, and he's like, oh, hey guys. But like this one, I was like, he doesn't. His face is like he's trying to put in a performance, but his words don't match what he's emoting with his face. It was very disappointing.
Like there's just not much going on with his performance. Like when you hear like, oh, Nick Cage war movie, you're like, oh, okay, like this is gonna be he's either gonna like give it his all or he's just gonna go off the walls, which that's what I was hoping for. But like we don't even get anywhere in between that. It's like you said, it's just a sleepy fucking performance from him, which is a little disappointing.
Yeah, he's the one trying to hold himself together, which makes sense because he's the captain. But like, I want him to be the guy carving a piano into the side of a raft later in the movie. You know what I mean? Like,
seriously.
We never really get him losing it. Like, scream at somebody, get mad.
Yeah, like even like so I mean, okay, so they deliver the bomb, that all goes well or whatever. Oh, actually, but right before this, after they've left San Diego and we get that terrible CGI shot of the ship going under the bridge.
PS2 loading screen? Yeah, no, that was bad.
Oh my god, like that was so brutal. I'm just like, guys, I'm like, you could have just like not put this shot in here. Like we could have just cut to something else and it would have been fine.
They used some stock footage in this. You could have bought stock footage of a ship.
That's true too. Yeah, literally. Like literally could have done that instead. Fuck, I forgot the point that I was going to make. I have no. Oh wait, sorry. No, they so they talk about the Kaiten torpedoes, which are manned torpedoes that the Japanese use because they were suicide bombers, except they were suicide torpedo things. So right after they leave, they're doing like a bunch of drills to see how fast they can get the guns loaded and all that stuff. But at the same time, they're like actually being watched and almost attacked, or at least that's what it's looking like, by the Japanese sub.
Yeah, that was confusing. I think that first one, when they're doing the exercises, because one of the Japanese soldiers comes back and says, oh, it was just a merchant ship. So I think we're supposed to think that they're attacking each other. But then we find out, oh, these guys are doing exercises, and the Japanese thought they were going to attack a U.S. military ship, but they realized it wasn't. So this guy who sent himself off in his suicide torpedo just died for nothing because it was actually just a merchant ship. By the way, I didn't know about Kaitens. I knew about like the Zeros and like the dive bombing and stuff. I never knew about that, so I actually learned something from USS Indianapolis, Men of Courage.
Yeah, that's true too. Like that's fucking wild. Like just having somebody piloting a fucking torpedo is insane. But yeah, like that was very confusing. But I guess that's where them not having an escort kind of comes into play, I guess, because like you said, maybe they just think it's a merchant ship or something. But
yeah,
it's still weird. It still doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But yeah, that was just one thing that I found kind of confusing, because I'm like, they could have just ended this ship right here, and that would have been it. Because I mean, for the amount of time it took for them to build the fucking bomb, to mine the materials for it, was a long time. So if they had sunk this, I mean, they probably still would have had maybe one left, because I don't know if they had both bombs on here. I think they just
I
had
think they
one.
just had the one, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, either way,
But like,
could have stopped it.
yeah, I mean, they would have sent more people out to die to retrieve that thing from the bottom of the ocean. But
That's true too.
I also kind of wish we got more with what was his name, Hashimoto, the Japanese
Yeah.
sub captain, because there's this whole thing which they spoon feed to us as the audience because they don't trust us. But like, he's talking to this reflection behind him that's clearly like a ghost of his grandfather or something, and he's like talking to him about how the sub isn't cursed, I'm cursed because I have no confirmed kills and blah blah blah. And then they cut to like a picture of the guy, so it's like, hey, that was a ghost, just so you know. But like, this guy's whole thing is kind of interesting, and we get like 7 minutes maybe total, including the trial at the end with Hashimoto, and I thought he was pretty good. When he was speaking Japanese, he was performing really well. When they had him speaking English, it dropped off a little, but obviously that's not your first language. It's going to be, a little harder to perform, but I want a little more with him.
I agree. His story is so much more like interesting, and his performance was really good too. Like, yeah, I would have loved to have spent more time on that and less time on like people dancing and all the other character shit I didn't care about. I'm like, I know that, like, okay, like the Japanese are the enemy in this movie, but like they're not the enemy anymore. So like, let's see it from their point of view. And movies have done that before, like Tora 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 did that, like where we saw things from like both point of views. And I'm like, it's really interesting to do that. And same with like Clint Eastwood's two movies, Flags of Our Fathers and Letters from Iwo Jima. It's interesting to see it from the other side, and they could have spent way more time exploring that, and they really didn't.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, the movie's long already, but you could have cut out like Mandela Van Peebles, Mario Van Peebles' son, who's in this, spitting in people's pie, and included like dramatic scenes,
Yeah. Oh yeah, speaking of the spitting in the pie, so he spits in the pie of Lieutenant Standish, who was like the second in command.
Okay, that's his name.
Ship.
I just kept writing douchey guy.
Yeah, he is a fucking douche. He's a massive douche. And the most disappointing part of his character is like, one, he's a Nepo baby because he says earlier in the movie that his dad is like an admiral in the Navy.
Okay.
So this is why he's in this position, because he looks too young to be in this position. But the reason he is because he's a Nepo baby, at least according to this movie. Like I said, I didn't dive into like the real story too much about this, but either way, yeah, he's a fucking douche. And he dies later in the movie, and we don't even see it. They just talk about it like after the ship is sunk, because after they deliver the bomb, the ship is sunk. It's struck by like 6 torpedoes, or they shoot like 6 torpedoes at this ship. And like it goes down. And so later on, he gathers a bunch of people to go and swim to land because they thought they saw an island nearby. And so he disappears with a bunch of people. And then that raft comes back with a few other people, and they're like, there were sharks everywhere, and now he's dead. And I'm just like, I wanted to see him like really die.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know that's not the point of the movie, but like, I really I'm like, you showed a bunch of other soldiers and sailors dying pretty brutally. I'm like, I would have liked to have seen him because he was clearly a racist dick.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, because he's built up to be such a dick, and I didn't realize he was the one who died. Again, like I said, I didn't get his name because it's hard to keep track. But when they came back and they're like, yeah, Standish is gone, and so are all these other guys, and I was like, who the fuck was Standish? I knew he was someone in charge because I'd heard the name, but I didn't connect the dots. But it would have been great to see him die, because all you see is all these like supposedly like good guys, the good soldiers, the nice guys are all the ones getting killed. And I get they're trying to like pull your heartstrings there, but like give the audience something. Give us this dickhead getting killed, so at least we go, okay, cool. There's some reprieve in the middle of this thing.
Yeah, like that would have been something, at least.
And it takes a long time to get to the sharks. I don't know. This movie was very long, like I said. And I don't know exactly how long it took. It was probably about an hour of this 2-hour movie to get to the sharks, and then that's only like a half hour of the movie. And I'm like, isn't this like what this movie's about?
Yeah, because I mean, every time you hear about this story in particular, like this is like that's one of the biggest things that comes up is like the men in the water for 5 days fighting off sharks and starvation. And like, yeah, we didn't spend that much time on that. Like you said, we probably could have cut the first like 25 minutes of this
Yeah.
movie at least. And just started them when they're already on the way to the island. Give us a little bit of exposition, show the crew interacting with each other so we get to know these characters. I didn't need this fucking Pearl Harbor oh, my buddy's died, so I'm gonna marry his girl and raise his kid. I'm like, we literally have seen that in Pearl Harbor, and I don't need it in this fucking movie. Like, I don't care about this at all. I don't even care if it's a true story. Like, I don't give a shit about this. Like, I really don't.
I'm actually kind of so I've only seen Pearl Harbor once many years ago. Very boring. For a Michael Bay movie too, which his movies suck, but at least you can't say they're boring. Usually, stuff explodes all the time. I was bored
Yeah.
bored to tears, so I haven't watched it again. Now I'm looking forward to whenever I do watch it for my podcast one day, because every April we do a Michael Bay movie right before May. It's going to be
Oh,
Bay.
nice.
One day we'll watch it, and I'm looking forward to watching it and going, hey, that's like that USS Indianapolis movie with Nick Cage.
Yeah. Yeah, it's literally the same thing. It's Ben Affleck and Josh Hartnett. One of them dies, and the other one ends up raising the other one's fucking kid. And so, like, I have to wonder, like, if this is actually part of the true story of the Indianapolis, did Michael Bay take that,
Oh,
like, part of the
probably.
story and, like, put it into his movie? And I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what he did. But again, like, don't really fucking care that much. Like, we also didn't spend enough time with them for me to care, because they kept trying to, like, show us all these other characters, and I'm just like, there's too many of them. I'm like, introduce me to a couple of quick people, but like, otherwise I'm totally lost, because like you said, a lot of these people look the same. And I'm saying that about the white people, everybody. I'm not saying that about but like, a lot of them just are so interchangeable with each other.
They all have. I mean, it's kind of makes sense. You have to have your haircut and your uniform and whatever. But have every one of these guys with the same haircut, the same uniform. But then also, most of the people they cast are like nameless, dead-eyed CW type actors. Like,
Yeah.
so it's just replace this generic guy with that generic guy. I saw in the credits that Cody Walker, Paul Walker's brother, is in this. And I was like, oh, well, at least there's a face I'll recognize. I couldn't figure out who the fuck he was until they yelled his name when they were in the rafts. And I was like, oh, it's that one. Even he didn't
Right.
look like anybody. So because I saw him and I looked at his picture and I was like, oh, that's definitely Paul Walker's brother. He looks like Paul Walker. In the movie, looks just like all these other dead-eyed people.
Yeah, they needed to do something to differentiate between a lot of these people,
Yeah.
to make me actually care about them, because otherwise, like you said, it's just a bunch of faces getting attacked and whatnot. And some of the attacks are like kind of cool. Like, there's a couple of parts where I'm like, hey, that was all right, that was decent. I wish there was like a longer stretch of this kind of thing. And some of it was bad, like some of the CGI sharks weren't great, but I will say they were definitely better than I was expecting, considering a lot of the CGI at the beginning of this movie.
Yeah, and there was definitely some real footage of sharks. Nick Cage got in the water with the shark, because when he gets thrown off the ship, the shark bumps right into him. And like, I couldn't tell, which is a good thing, when they're in the rafts and there's like fins going around them. I was like, is that added in, or did they put a real shark there? So that's good. Like, the fin parts looked real. I don't know if they were, but they looked real.
I mean, I definitely feel like they at least inserted like footage of actual sharks interspersed in between some of these things. And maybe some of the fins, they just had like practical, like remote control fins or something like that, because I've seen that in movies before too.
Okay.
And yeah, when it's done right, it can actually look pretty good. It's probably like one area of the movie that they did like half decent, but it just wasn't long enough for what you're kind of expecting when you hear about this story.
Yeah, a lot of the times when they're popping out of the water, it looks like what we've talked about with you before, like Santa Jaws or Shark Exorcist, where it's like
yeah,
the shark popping out of the water, and it's like, okay, all right, I've seen a cartoon. But you know what? Most of the shark stuff looked better than, like, right when they're delivering the cargo right here, like right before they go in the water. I forgot to mention it before. They show in the background, in case you didn't get it yet, the Anola Gay, which is the first plane that dropped the first bomb, but it's clearly like a toy.
Oh, dude, that whole, like, when they're dropping the bomb off, that whole like airfield, it's like a bad matte painting, but it's like it's all digital and like it's somehow worse. I'm like, I would have rather like a kid fucking painted something because it probably would have looked better. Yeah, there and like you said, when they first showed the Anola Gay, yeah, it looked fucking terrible.
I had to rewind it. I was like, was that bad CG or a bad miniature? And it looks like a bad miniature. Like I love miniatures. I like practical shit. Like I don't care if a miniature looks fake, but this looked like someone had like a collector's toy of the Anola Gay,
Yeah.
like a little like when you're a kid. I don't know if they still do this, but when I was a kid, you could go to like the cockpit and meet the pilots of the plane, and they'd give you a little fake plane. It looked like they just took
Oh,
one of
cool.
those and like painted Anola Gay on the side of it.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, okay, all right, I got it.
Yeah, like between that and some of the sub CGI, like the exterior of the
Oh
submarine was
God, yeah.
pretty bad. There's a couple of times when the ship is on fire, it looks decent. Like when the ship actually gets hit, like there's a couple of parts that actually look okay
There's
for the
some
most
real
part.
fire in the explosions on the inside of the ship. Like there's
Yeah,
some actual like stuntmen near explosions, but then
yeah,
other parts where like a guy's arm is on fire and it's, I mean, I don't know what the budget of this movie was. I usually look that up. I didn't think about it, but like I'm assuming you don't have the budget to light a dude on fire. That's fine, or the budget for the insurance to light a dude on
yeah,
fire.
yeah. That's what it
But
is.
like some of the explosions were real, and I was like, okay, all right. They cheaped out on the beginning half of the movie to make the second half look good. But that's not true either, though.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's like they couldn't decide exactly where they wanted to put their money. Like it just doesn't seem like they had a very concise vision as to like what they wanted this to be. They're just like, yeah, we're gonna tell a story about this, and then people are just gonna care about it because it's a true story and it's America. Like,
Yeah,
and I'm
exactly.
sure a lot of people who watch the movie that they're like, yeah, fuck yeah, it's awesome. And like, I wouldn't say that this is necessarily a bad movie, but I also wouldn't say it's like a good movie.
I was bored to tears, man. I tried watching this. I was like, I'm gonna watch it early so that I'm not like cutting it down to the last minute, which is what I ended up doing. Because started watching it before work yesterday, and I fell asleep. Maybe not the movie's fault, probably. Went to work, came home. Usually when I come home from work, I pop in a movie, put it on. Got another 20 minutes in, and then I woke up today and I was like, all right, well, I watched a lot of that movie. I went and looked and I was like 50 minutes. I still have an hour and 28 minutes left to watch of this movie, or an hour and 18 minutes left. Good
Yeah.
God. Like it's not bad in the sense of some of the stuff that like we talk about on our show, but like it's not it's definitely not good. It's just under mediocre.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect way to describe it. Yeah, it's not amazing. Um, I mean, I've certainly talked about worse movies on the podcast. Like this movie, I would rather watch over like at least two or three others that I can think of off the top of my head. But like, it's not going to be a great watch. And again, I would probably fast forward through like the first 40 minutes of it. Because like again, a lot of that stuff you could have just gotten either through. They could have had a text crawl at the beginning of this movie
Yeah.
to fill in some of the information and then just start us right off on the ship and then we get to the rest of this. I almost would have rather them spent more time on the fucking trial than some of this other shit, because that would have been like at least somewhat interesting and we could have actually gotten some good performances in there. But instead they're just like, yeah, so here's the trial. McVeigh, you're guilty because you didn't do enough things to prevent this ship from sinking for a reason, so he gets court-martialed, and then he kills himself. Uh, so yeah, there's your fucking
Which
like America moment right there. This man who put his life on the line, and the military fucked him during the mission, and then fucked him again after the mission.
I did do a little bit of reading about that because I was curious. I was like, because and of course everybody listening, we're jumping way to the end, but like he has this whole narration about like time moved on. Eventually, I lost my Louise, so it's like she's passed away. Like this is later, and I was like,
Yeah.
but when they show him with the gun and everything, he looks exactly the same. So I went and looked it up, and he did kill himself in 1968. But the way the movie
Okay.
presents it is it was like the week after the trial, and he's like, well, I don't
Yeah.
like that.
That's so again, there's a lot of like pacing issues with this movie. A lot of things that aren't fully clarified. Like I would have liked more information on. Um yeah, there's a lot left to be desired when you're watching
Well,
this.
by the time we got to the trial while I was watching this, I have a note in here down towards the end that's like, because they get rescued and everything, and I'm like, there are still 35 minutes left. How is that possible? And then there's this trial, and I was like, oh my God, who could care? But you're right. It would be better if we spent more time with the trial if we didn't have that first huge section. Like you said, you have like a text crawl or just like them starting the mission, and Nick Cage tells Tom Sizemore, like, hey, we've been tasked with delivering this package to this airfield or whatever, and we just skip all that beginning stuff. And you could have the soldiers, the sailors talking to each other about their personal stuff instead of having all that at the beginning. And then they could have done the shark stuff for the first 45 minutes and then done the trial for the second hour or something, because that trial could be very interesting.
Oh, 100%. Like there is definitely a lot of things they could have dove into, and then like I feel like this movie wanted to fit in too much. Like they wanted to fit in like every aspect of this story,
Yeah.
and like there's not enough room to do all of that. So like if they wanted to do that, like I almost feel like this would have worked better. Maybe not with this like cast and budget or anything, but like this story would have worked better as like a mini series or something like that, because then you could really like take a deeper dive into a lot of this stuff and make us care about the characters a little bit more. But when you try to shove all this into a 2-hour movie, it just gets really boring. And again, like a lot of stuff I didn't care about, a lot of stuff you can just kind of skip over. Because I mean, like a lot of the stuff we don't need, like, oh, the people at home are doing this, and I'm just like, we already know all of that. Like we've seen all of that so many times in so many other movies. Like Pearl Harbor spends like fucking 3/4 of the movie doing that. I'm like, I just want to see this mission. Like that's what this movie's about. That's what I want to see. And then yeah, like you said, have people in the mess hall talking, chatting, and then we get to know them that way.
And you know what we wouldn't have had to see if we were in the court more? We wouldn't have had to see most of this movie covered in this really low frame rate CGI fog. I don't know if you noticed the fog in the background. It's like jittery. It's like the fog is going across the screen right before they get attacked, and then while they're at sea, like while they're stranded, and it's just in the background like shaking and jittering. And I was like, guys, I have a 2015 MacBook right here, and I could probably do better.
Yeah, even the scene where they're first going into the fog and they're just looking out the window and they're like, oh, it's foggy. Should we do the zigzag? And it's like, no, just go straight, full speed ahead. So when they're just looking from the outside into the window, it's got that jittery fog. And I'm like, bitch, get a smoke machine. I'm like, they're super cheap. I'm like, get dry ice. Like, my God, it's like one of the most inexpensive things you can buy for a film set. Like, there's so many things that they could have done and they just didn't do. And I don't understand it. I'm like, I know you were on a budget, but like the fog looks so bad. Like it was distracting to the point where I'm just like, I'm not paying attention to anything else that's going on, because what the fuck is all this?
Yeah, because I mean, it's I think it comes down to that thing that people always say now. So we just got done having an episode about The Electric State, that big Netflix turd, and
Right.
Joe Russo in that said, well, we couldn't do practical robot effects or animatronics because it would be 5 times as expensive. Your movie costs $320 million. It's impossible for it to be 5 times as expensive. This is one of those things where some producer was like, we can just CG the fog. It'll be cheaper. I guarantee you, renting a fog machine from Big Willie's party rentals down the street was a lot cheaper than paying somebody to render this terrible CG fog. And I just looked it up. The movie was $40 million budget. That's not high, but for this type of movie, it's not super low either. It's kind of right in the middle. Spend fucking $140 to rent that fog machine. I guarantee you paid some intern or some, beginner CG guy more than that to make this fog.
Yeah, and honestly, with Nicolas Cage's performance, they could have just hired a nobody in his role, somebody cheaper.
I would say it's one of those things where, especially like in this era of his movies, a lot of the stuff he's in, it's just so they can say Nick Cage because they think it'll help with rentals or sales or whatever. Because I
Yeah.
mean, some of them he is the star of the movie and he's doing stuff, but some of them he's just there hanging out, and like it's just to say Nick Cage is in my movie. And I feel like it's the same thing with Tom Sizemore to a lesser amount because he's not as big of a name as Nick Cage, but people know Tom Sizemore, especially the old white guys who are going to rent this movie, and
Yeah.
and Tom Jane too, you know.
Yeah.
And Tom Jane's in the movie for 40 seconds, and he probably made more than most of these guys who are playing the sailors stuck at sea.
Yeah, 100%. And like, I love Thomas Jane. I think he's fantastic. Like, I'm not saying he's like an amazing actor, but I like it when I see him in movies. But he didn't need to be in this movie. They didn't need to cast Thomas Jane in that role. So Thomas Jane plays like he's like a pilot, right? And he's the one who ends up discovering all of the sailors after they've been lost at sea for 5 days. And he
Yeah.
lands the plane in the water, basically going against orders and like saving a bunch of people. I guess we didn't talk about this too much, but yeah, when they're in the water for 5 days because their mission was so top secret and they didn't have an escort. And they radioed for help, and they received the transmission on the in the Philippines on the naval base, and they're just like, "Oh, but it could be an enemy sub just trying to get ships to come out there." And then they just kind of leave it at that. They're like,
Well,
well, that's all of that is. Let's
and then
go on with our day.
at the end of the movie, the two muckety muck guys, the generals or whatever, that are talking about like how this could be bad for visual, bad for them visually. One of them's like, "Oh yeah, we received 4 transmissions plus the one we intercepted from the Japanese sub," and he's like, "And we didn't answer any of them." No,
Yeah.
like the Japanese sub confirmed that these are your people, and you still chose to just be like, "Well, fuck it."
Yeah, and the only reason, at least in the movie, that they get discovered is because they were looking for another plane that had crashed.
Yeah, yeah, and the guy, they didn't even see him. The guy goes back to like check the antenna and happens to see them out of like the porthole thing, and he's like, "Hey, there's 2 dudes down there." Oh wait, no, there's like 100 dudes down there.
Yeah. Yeah, like that was fucking insane. Like just absolutely wild.
I was disappointed in the ship sinking. They do the Titanic thing where it tilts and it snaps in
Literally.
half, and I was like, "You couldn't have thrown a guy off the back and had him hit a propeller?"
No, they had a guy falling forward and hitting one of the guns instead.
Oh, okay,
That
I
was
didn't catch that. All right.
Yeah. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, yeah, this is literally just Titanic. I'm like, the ship is splitting in two. It's saying, I'm like, yeah, literally, this is just Titanic.
And then, so I didn't realize it was 5 days. They might have said that at some point, but they start with text on the screen. It says day 1, 902 men remaining. And then we get another one that says day 2, 698 men remaining. And then we get no more. They also start with like, this is Group A. They're 2.5 miles from the shipwreck. This is Group B. They're another mile from those guys. And then we never see that again either. So they're cutting between all these groups, and I'm like, I already can't tell who your actors are. Now they're all covered in blood, and they're wet, and they're sweating, and they're all sunburned and fucked up. Now I really can't tell. I was like, yeah. I only knew because I'm like, okay, here's Nick Cage and Tom Sizemore. They're alone. Got it. Here's these other 2 guys, our 2 kind of main characters, quote unquote, Mike and other friend.
Brian, I think.
Brian.
Or they call him Bam.
Yeah,
Mike and Bam.
The credits on Letterboxd have him credited as Bam or Bama. This is the first time we hear Bama, and this is like an hour and 15 minutes into the movie. I was like, yeah, that shouldn't be his credit. But like,
no,
we have,
at all.
And I thought those 2 were alone because they get attacked by a shark. But then suddenly they're with the group, and the one guy's leg is all bloody, and I'm like, I don't know. I was like, if you're gonna do the titles on the screen, continue doing the titles. Maybe I can keep track.
Yeah. Well, we see him get attacked by a shark with the bloody leg. He gets, because a shark comes and tips their raft over. So they fall in the water. He's grabbed by the shark as he's holding on to the raft. And then, like, while the shark is pulling on him, it's also pulling the raft with the other dude in it. But then we, like, totally cut away from that. and then we just come back later on and he's all bloodied up. So like there's still like you said, like there's pieces missing. And like you said, when they're like group A and group B are this far and this far, and then they just kind of abandon that after a while. And it's like, why introduce that in the first place?
Yeah.
If you're not going to continue on with that, because I think that would have also helped a little bit understanding everything that was happening, because like I said, there's a lot of parts that are confusing as to like when things are happening. So if they had kept up with that, it would have been like, okay, I'm with group A, this is who's in group A, okay, oh, we're in group B, okay, fine, we're in group B, this is who's with that. But then when they stopped doing that and they cut back and forth, I'm like, I don't know which group we're in anymore. Like, I don't know where we are, I don't know how many people are alive. Like, I'm just totally fucking lost.
Well, then even when Nick Cage goes off, so Mario Van Peebles' son shows up, and he's like, you take care of Tom Sizemore. I'm going to go find some people because you said you came from another group. Oh, by the way, he came from another group because the sharks attacked and he just swam away. Bad move, but he made it.
Yeah.
When he comes back with like a dozen people, he's like, oh, they drifted away from their group. I'm like, did they? We don't know anything about it. And so I know you talk about shark movies and then none of it's realistic most of the time. But
yeah.
I know from listening to some of your stuff that you've at least read about how some of these sharks act, and they mention these are great whites and they have no natural predators, whatever. Are they going to be that aggressive? Are they going to start flipping rafts? Or are they just going to pick off? I mean, I know that this really happened and these guys were getting picked off, but wouldn't they just be picking off the dudes who have their legs in the water or are floating independently? Like, are sharks going to really come at you and like flip your raft?
See, I feel like no. Like, I feel like that's like a fully Hollywood invention, is them flipping the rafts. And again, like I didn't look too deep into like the actual story of it, but I feel like the flipping of the rafts is like just for the dramatic effect of all of it. Because I think, like you said, yeah, it's just the sharks picking off the people who are like bleeding and dying in the water already.
Yeah.
From like previous injuries. Like the sharks not coming and flipping the rafts per se.
And they're flipping these rafts while there's dudes floating all around. I'm like, this seems like a lot more work than you need to go get that guy. He's got a life vest on, but he's just floating. He's not even awake. Take him. Like he won't even know what happened until it's too late. You know. I mean, I know they're not. Yeah. I'm talking about them like they're serial killers, but but like it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like they would be flipping these. Oh, speaking of the rafts too, what the fuck was Standish? Right before he dies, I wanted to mention it. I know we're jumping all over. I'm sorry for people trying to follow, but
yeah,
I just saw this.
But like this movie's all over the place too, so like
yeah,
like if you really want to watch it, go for it. I don't recommend
it. I just saw this in my notes. There's the part where when they first start getting their shit together, and the morning comes, and he's like, "All right, everybody, get out of the rafts. The rafts are only for injured men." And officers. And I'm the officer. Yeah. Like, so he's like yelling at these dudes and like pointing guns at them and just being a total asshole while sitting on the edge of a raft. Like, he might as well have a pina colada. And like all these other guys are just barely treading water. And he's just like, look, I'm more important than all of you. So that's why I want to see him die. This is
again another reason I wanted to see him die, because he was a dick. Like, they made him into a villain.
Yeah.
Throughout this movie, like they made a point of showing what a douchebag he was, and then when he dies, we don't see anything.
I wonder if the real person he's based on didn't have any descendants, so they're like, well, we can't piss off his family. Let's make him the villain. Like that if he didn't, he was the last one, and he didn't have any kids, so.
Like, we need somebody to be mean and stupid, so it's gonna be this guy.
Oh, and my favorite thing in the whole movie is Tom Sizemore cuddling with his leg like it's a teddy bear.
Oh my god.
His leg that was ripped off in the accident, presumably, not by a shark. Like, so like when Nick Cage finds him and he starts asking for morphine right away, and I was like, that wasn't in the script. That's just Tom Sizemore. But like he's there, Nick Cage is injecting him and he's just like cuddling his severed leg. I was like, just get rid of that, dude.
Yeah, like at that point, there's no chance. Like, you're not getting that fucking sewn back on. Like,
right?
Yeah, like he's lucky he didn't like die sooner just from bleeding out, really. But
like, if I make it home, I'm gonna get this leg bronzed and I'm gonna keep it.
which would have been great. Like, that would have been amazing. Like, can you imagine passing that down to your family, like, in the will? Like, yeah, you get fucking Uncle Tom's bronze leg that he lost in the war. I don't know where you're gonna put it. I wouldn't put it on the mantle, but I mean, it's yours now.
And while we're talking about him, when Mario Van Peebles' son gets left with him, I found it here. Yeah, it's Mandela Van Peebles. When he gets left with him, while Cage goes off to look for people, he starts reading him this book he's writing. And I just like that, like, he's reading it, and Tom Sizemore's like, "What the fuck are you doing? This is so boring." And he says something about a woman in a red dress. He's like, "Hold on, wait, tight dress? I like that." Like, like he is dying.
Imagination.
Yeah, he's dying, and he's like, "Yeah, but what about the camel toe?"
It's like hearing that gave him like an extra 20 minutes of life.
Well, I can't die until I find out if this sailor hooks up with the hot girl in the red dress.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, I think his name was Theodore. That was the character's name.
Yeah, that sounds
like
right.
him working on this book or whatever. But it's so interspersed in between everything else. It's like they're telling me I'm supposed to care about this, but I haven't seen enough of it to like actually care about it.
I mean, is this the
Whereas,
first
like, if
time?
it's gonna become this important when he's talking to Tom Sizemore's character later, then we could have spent like a little bit more time with him doing that. Not a lot, but like, again, they could have cut some of this other stuff out and we could have focused on that.
Okay, so this isn't the first time they mentioned the book, because it was the first time I
No.
noticed.
Yeah, no. Like, we see him like before they go on the mission. The girl in the red dress that he's describing is Clara, who's the one Mike and Brian
that's
are
right.
going
He's
after.
sitting in the alley writing. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, so we see that, but we don't really know like what he's doing. It's like he's just describing things that he sees, like he's just writing shit down. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, whatever.
Okay.
And then like we sort of learn that he's working on a book later on. But again, like, it happens like so far apart in the movie that it's like, oh right, I forgot about this. To the point I don't care about it anymore because there's just all this other shit going on. So like, yeah.
And like right around here too, we get. So my favorite part of the movie is Tom Sizemore cuddling his leg. My favorite kill of the movie is this dude who's like suddenly gets seasick, or maybe he's sick from eating Spam, and he goes to puke off the side of the raft, and this shark just jumps up and grabs him by the head and pulls him underwater. I was like, that's what I'm here for. I know this is a drama and it's not supposed to be the shark movie, but like in this section of the movie, let's get some shark stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, you know that specific thing probably didn't happen where he was just leaning over and the shark came and grabbed him. Like, that has to be entirely Hollywood. So if you're gonna put those sort of kills in there, fucking go all out with it. Like, make that whole section of the movie just these wild, and like, you don't have to be like exploitive about it. But you can make it gory, so you can be like, oh shit, like this is terrifying, like, this is bad. But like, they don't really focus on that enough.
It's like Saving Private Ryan and stuff, where you're doing a war movie. It's serious, it's dramatic, but when you're showing people die, it's brutal. You know, like this, most of the times people die, it's just like the guy is there, and then all of a sudden there's a splash and he's not. Like, give me something to grab onto to understand like the brutality of what's going on. And also, don't tell me that there were 1,100 dudes or whatever, but only show me 20, and then try to tell me that 90 people died. Although, you know what, I take that back, because if they were going to try to show 900 people floating in the water, they would have had 20, and then they would have just went in and like cut that out, copy paste, and it would just be a whole bunch of groups doing exactly the same thing. Well, we'll take this one and we'll rotate it 180 degrees so it doesn't look the same as the other group, you know.
Yeah.
So never mind that.
Which, I mean, would be fine if they had like a bigger budget to accomplish that and make it look good, which they didn't have and they couldn't do. Like, there was just no chance in hell that was ever going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know, because like these kind of movies get budgets, like World War II, based on a true story, survival type of thing. So I don't know if one of these producers pissed off the wrong people, or if the script was just so bad that like real movie companies were passing on it, because I feel like you could have made this into like a real movie and not this like straight to red box secret movie. Like
100%, because like there's only one other version of this story that I've seen, like a Hollywood production, which I'm going to be covering on Patreon this month. It's called Mission of the Shark, from 1990 or 91, and it's got Stacy Keach in it.
Ooh,
So
yeah.
it's not like this is a story that's been like oversaturated by any means.
Yeah, there's that, and then there's Quint and Jaws. So that's all we've
Yeah.
got. The only reason I knew about this was because of Jaws.
Yeah. And like in Jaws, like when they mention it, because it's not in the book at all, because by the time the movie had come out, that's when like the entirety of this event actually became declassified. Because before that, all people knew about it was like, oh, like a ship sank or something, and like this guy was court-martialed, and like that was basically it. They didn't really know that this ship was delivering the atomic bomb or anything. Like that didn't come out until like the 70s, like
Okay.
74 or 73 or something. So yeah, like they could have pitched this to like a major studio and actually gotten a budget for it, I feel like, because it's not a very well-known story except for from Jaws. Like, and like I said, there's not a bunch of other movies about it. There's like one that, at least one that I know of. Maybe there's a couple of other ones, but they're definitely not big budget productions. So like they could have, I feel like they could have gotten more funding from this.
Yeah, and you could, and I saw the movie Open Water once. I don't remember if I liked it or not. I saw it when it first came out, but you could have really focused on them being stuck and done the open water thing and had these people out there getting all fucked up and like really focused on that. Or like you said, have that be the first half and then have the trial be the second half. You have this survival open water style movie that transitions into like a courtroom drama, and it could have been really cool, but you would have had to have money for that instead of having 20 dudes floating in someone's swimming pool with like a green screen around it so you could CG out their backyard, like
Yeah.
because some of the stuff when they're floating looks good, like when they're getting when they're
Yeah.
all burnt, like sunburnt, and the skin is peeling off and they're looking all fucked up. Cage doesn't get too fucked up, he just looks dirty, but
Yeah.
he was like, look, you guys aren't paying me enough to put on all that makeup.
Yeah, that's probably true.
But all the no name CW people, it looks good when they're all fucked up,
Some of the effects, like even Tom Sizemore's severed leg, I'm like, that actually looks pretty good. Like it doesn't look super cheap. And there's even a couple of other parts where like some of the gore and even some of the attacks were good, but like it was so like they spent the money on those like 2 or 3 specific moments, and then the rest of it they're just like, yeah, we're just not going to show anything.
Yeah, because like the actual leg he's holding looks good, the stump does not. And then there's another dude later in the movie who we don't see how it happened, but he has his arm missing, and I'm pretty sure they just took the stump from Tom Sizemore's leg and like flipped it and put it on this guy's arm, because it's like
probably
it's like a rounded bump that's just covered in red. I'm like, I saw that leg and it was shredded. There wouldn't be a rounded bump. There'd be tendrils and viscera. Viscera is the word.
Yeah,
I'm
they're
looking
showing
for.
it like it's already been sewn up at some point, which I'm like, that hasn't happened. I'm like, there's no fucking way anybody's sewing anything in there.
Also, just imagine your entire leg being ripped off and then having to sit in the salt water.
Oh, dude.
Like he's like begging for them not to leave him and to help him live and stuff. And I'm like, I would be like, you still got your service pistol, man? Can you do me a quick favor?
Yeah, like fuck this noise, man. I'm out.
Like I've Sizemore does a decent job. He's very hit and miss, even more so than Nick Cage with his performances. Like most of the movie, he's good at playing a dick. He's okay when he's dying, but at the very end, I did like his thing where like Nick Cage is giving some sentimental speech, and Sizemore just suddenly starts screaming about how like the angels are coming, and like, I never got to see my baby boy. Where's my baby boy? The angels are coming, and then he just dies, and I was like, that was pretty fucking crazy. I liked that.
Yeah, that actually wasn't half bad. Like you said, I've seen a lot where he's just, I feel like I've covered a movie with him in it before. I can't for the life of me remember what. I'm assuming it was an Asylum movie.
Yeah.
And like whatever it was, he phoned in that performance. Like it's like he's reading lines off a cue card the entire fucking movie.
Yeah.
But like this one, it actually, and especially towards the end, like it felt like he actually like put himself into it for a bit, which was at least something. It gave me something to latch onto in this movie.
That douchebag guy, Standish, it's not him. No, it is him. I don't know. One of these guys sends off. He's like, okay, I'm going to take all the non-injured people, and we're going to go find this island that's supposedly nearby.
Yeah.
But these other guys, he's like, all the injured people, you stay here. And the one guy's like, can we have supplies? And he's like, you can have a raft.
Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck is that? I was like, what? Again, just building him up to be this fucking douchebag, and then we don't get to see him die. Like, I don't get. Like, I would have liked to have spent more time on that, because from what they said, they're like, yeah, there were sharks everywhere. Everyone's dead. It's just like the three of us, or however many were left. And I'm just like, that sounds like an interesting part of this movie I would have liked to have seen, but I didn't. Instead, we're doing all this other bullshit I don't care about. Like when they're cutting back to land and like people at the base getting radio signals, or a couple of times where they cut to the plane searching overhead, I'm like, for the times that like they showed the planes and they didn't find the survivors, I'm like, you could have cut that entirely, because it's completely fucking pointless. Like, we don't need it. It almost would have been better, because like they don't know if anybody's coming for them. Like, they've been out here for days, so it would have been cool to like not even see them receive the radio transmission, not even see the planes searching the area for this other plane, and then it just kind of like comes out of nowhere, and then we can get filled in on those details in the courtroom later on.
Yeah, or the only plane we really need to see is the one that spots the oil from the ship.
That's it.
Yeah, the other 2 times a plane flies over, it's like, I mean, I guess again, I know what they're trying to do. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Is they're trying to be like, oh, look, these guys have hope. Oh no. And then they always cut back to the people in the cockpit like, well, we didn't find what we were looking for. Like, we definitely weren't looking for those guys. Like, there's always a conversation between the two of them. Like, we weren't looking for a sunken ship or anything, so let's get the fuck out of here. Like,
yeah.
And I do like when Tom Jane finds out about him, though, because when he goes in, like you said, he goes against orders. But I love that's like directly, like a guy calls and he's like, do not land that plane. You're going to fuck it up. And he just hangs up the walkie-talkie and he's like, yeah, I'm going to land this plane. Like, there's no hesitation. There's no buildup. He's like, fuck that guy.
Nope.
And then, like, when they do land it, at first I was confused till he says that the ship or the plane is fucked up and it can't fly anymore. But I was confused because they start pulling people in, but they have them just like laying across the wings of the plane. I was like, are you about to try to fly with a bunch of dudes on your wings? Like,
that would have been great, actually.
All right, everybody, hold on. I know you're all at full strength, so.
Yeah, and he does fuck up the plane, so they have to call in for ships to come and get everybody. He's like, yeah, I can't take this plane off. It's already fucked up. I fucked it up when I landed it.
Yeah. And then, like, it feels like that's the end of the movie because I know that's what the movie's about. And that's when I, like, looked and I was like, what? 35 minutes? 35 whole minutes? I could watch any TV show.
Yeah, and it's not like the trial part of it isn't interesting, but, like, there's not a lot of the actual trial because, again, we're cutting to, like, people and their personal lives doing all this stuff, and I'm just like, this would have been fine if I hadn't already seen them do this at the beginning of the movie, because at this point I don't care. We see that one guy propose to Clara and is like, oh, I know you have Brian's baby, but I'm gonna move to Washington and become a lawyer and we're gonna live happily ever after. And then that's what they end up fucking doing. And I'm like, I don't fucking care. I'm like, McVeigh, Nicolas Cage's character, is being put on trial for having this ship sunk when it wasn't his fucking fault. And even like Hashimoto's testimony is like, yeah, no, there's no way they could have escaped from us. We fired 6 torpedoes at them. It was foggy. They had no idea we were there. Like, there is nothing he could have done to prevent this from happening. And then he still gets like found guilty for a bunch of shit that, like, and again, it's because they're using him as a scapegoat to try and hide like some of the real facts of this mission. But like, it's still so stupid.
Yeah, he was not guilty of improperly improperly abandoning ship or something like that, but he was guilty of hazarding the ship by not zigzagging. And it's like,
yeah,
that's literally what the dude, you called the Japanese naval officer in to ask if the zigzagging would help, and he said no. And then you're still like, well, yeah, but we need to get him on something.
Yeah.
And that was something else I read when I was looking up about his death, was that and I don't know how this works because I don't know anything about military ranks, but he had like basically he had 100 points taken from his captain status or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Like, apparently they keep a scorecard when you're in the military, but then eventually there was something that happened and they reinstated all of his stuff, so he was no longer disgraced in the military, and nobody actually knows why he committed suicide, but it's heavily believed that it had to do with this, which makes a lot of sense. Just the guilt over losing all these men and all of that. So
yeah, I mean, the guilt of losing all these men, and then the country that you fought and served for then fucks you over intentionally.
yeah,
And I don't think it's much of a secret at this point that, like, the military intentionally fucked him over to take the pressure off of them because they didn't do enough. And they
Yeah.
blame it on him. And I'm like, that is so fucked up. Like,
I don't
above and beyond
understand
fucked
why
up.
they needed to do anything. Like James Remar says, like, you know, hundreds of ships were sunk. Yours is the only one that's court-martial. It's bullshit. But it's like, we just won World War II. Like, that's all anybody's thinking about. So why
Yeah.
do you need to scapegoat this guy? Like, I guess to appease the family members of the soldiers who died, because there are people we didn't mention. He's getting phone calls at his house that are people that are just like, I'm gonna fucking kill you, motherfucker. Although my favorite is when he's having a dream about a phone call, and Tom Sizemore like does the Jason Voorhees out of like the water that's next to his bed in his dream and like pulls him down like the
Yeah.
end of Friday the 13th, the original one. But like he's getting all these phone calls and stuff, and so maybe they're just trying to make those people stop, or like appease those people, make them happy because they feel like they got justice for their family members who died in this thing. But he says right before he killed himself that the phone calls never stopped.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the phone calls never stopped. And
also
again, I
unlist
think a
your
lot
phone
of that
number.
is because, yeah, seriously. And I also think a lot of that too is because they didn't declassify entirely what this mission was, and that was part of the reason that they had to blame somebody, because they couldn't for some reason tell everybody what they had done. I'm like, you've already dropped the bombs. Like, you've already dropped bombs on innocent civilians and made everybody go like, whoa, maybe we should rethink this whole war thing we got going on here.
Yeah,
But,
you got Cillian Murphy all upset over there.
yeah.
He hated to see the conclusion of his work.
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I don't understand the whole reasoning for scapegoating him. It's entirely fucked up and wrong on a million different levels. And like you said, yeah, he didn't kill himself until years later, but I mean, that is obviously something that weighed on him his entire life.
Yeah. Yeah, and they don't really, I mean, again, we just cut from the trial to however many years later, 20 plus years later, and it's just him killing himself, and it's like, well, again, I guess we don't need to make the movie longer, but if we cut out the unnecessary stuff, you could show that, like, yeah, he was reinstated, yeah, he had this and that, but he still was having trouble in his life.
Show him dealing with like PTSD when they didn't really know what PTSD was.
Yeah. Just
like,
anything.
Again, that would have been something interesting to explore. And like they don't explore any, they don't fully explore any of the interesting historical aspects of this movie.
Oh, you know what I just thought of? And people say, like I said, I was reading that most people believe it had to do with losing all these soldiers and stuff, the reason he killed himself, but also when he has the conversation with Hashimoto right after the trial, and Hashimoto's like, look, as an officer of the Japanese Imperial Navy, it was my job to kill you, but as a man, I have regrets about it. And Nick Cage says back to him, he's like, yeah, and as a soldier, I had a good idea of what we were carrying to the delivery, but as a man, I don't remember exactly what he says, but he's like, as a man, I don't have to like it. I don't feel great about it. So maybe that goes into it too. He feels guilty about losing his sailors, but he also feels guilty about delivering, death upon Japan.
Yeah, like one of the biggest weapons to ever, well, the biggest weapon to be detonated on the fucking planet at that point. Yeah. So yeah, again, that's another avenue they could have fucking explored, and it feels like they breeze over it.
Yeah, they gave it one line of dialogue and moved on.
Because it almost feels like this movie is trying to, they're like, yeah, we dropped the bomb, but we're not going to show any of that, and we're not even going to really talk about the bomb that much. because they're trying to make it in a more positive light about these like courageous people and not so much on all of the shitty fucking things that they've done. Because even with the court trial, like that's fairly breezed over for the most part. Because again, we just keep cutting back to these people in their personal lives doing their shit, which I'm like, I don't really care about at this point. Like, there's
Yeah.
other things I would rather fucking see. And it's just like they're trying to paint themselves in a better light. And I'm just like, no. I'm like, this is all of this is fucked up. Like delivering and dropping the bomb, that's fucked up. Having that ship sunk and then not sending anybody out to help is fucked up. Having a scapegoat, oh, the captain, yeah, just fucking blame it on him is fucked up. Because like that like fucked up his entire life too. He was already probably going to be fucked up after he found out what they had delivered and what it was used for. And then to have this on top of that, like again, entirely fucked up.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think they were trying to cater to a broader audience. It's like kind of along the lines of what I said earlier. Like they're like, well, the people who are going to rent this movie don't want to feel bad about things America did.
Yeah.
So let's brush over that. Let's not talk about the things that we did with the nuclear weapons and this and that. You're going to feel a little bad because this guy is getting scapegoated, but a lot of the people renting these are also veterans, and they're like, hell yeah, man, they fuck us all over. You know, they can get in on that. So
yeah,
I feel like you're right. It's just like, let's make this as benign as we can so we don't piss off. We can get the gun-toting right wing guys to watch it. We can get the bleeding heart left wing guys to watch it. Anybody who served in the military will watch it. You know, it's like we can kind of get a little bit of everybody in here without making anybody mad, but you can't make everybody happy. Otherwise your movie's going to be forgotten and still sitting in a shut down red box in front of a Walgreens somewhere.
Yeah, 100%. And honestly, I would like to see this story more in depth. As I said, I think it would work better as like a mini series, maybe like 12 episodes or something like that. Like you can go to the inception of the mission itself, them trapped in the water, the trial, and then the last few episodes or episode or two are basically like McVeigh's life after the war, him dealing with all of this, and then even some of the other characters that we would see throughout the movie, almost like a Band of Brothers or the Pacific type show.
Yeah,
Like you could do something like that with it. I think that would be a better way of telling this story in its entirety because, like I said, there's a lot to it. They breeze over a lot. They try to appease too many people, and we don't get all the facts that like we really should be getting.
Yeah, it was a 2 hour and 8 minute movie that feels rushed. And that's
insane. Which is
insane.
crazy. Yeah. Like it's crazy because it's too much, but like, yeah, also like there's not enough of the story in the movie. But again, that is due to some of the choices, like again, following these people and oh, I'm gonna marry her. I'm in love with her. I'm gonna marry her. Oh, you're dead, so I'm gonna marry her and raise your kid. Like,
I've always loved her.
Yeah. Since the first day I saw her in like kindergarten, I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, also one last thing that I have to say, and it would have just been stupid, but I still would have appreciated it. Name one of these fucking sailors Quint. Let's just get it in there.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be fine with that. You know, I would even be fine with them doing a movie about Quint's experience.
Yeah.
In this situation, right? So like we would just start off on the mission, and then we would see all the shark stuff, and then it would end with them being rescued, and like that would be it. That was all we would need to see.
The story he tells in Jaws is the pitch for a horrific horror movie. Like that's the pitch for a very scary horror movie, and instead we got a very middling World War II drama that tried to have a segment of suspense. You know, it's a horrible story. It's a terrible story, and you could have made something real out of it, but instead they didn't.
Yeah, they tried to cover too much while also covering nothing at all, and then, you know, where they spent their money, and I don't know. They could have done so much more with this movie, and ultimately they just it kind of falters. Like I said, I don't think that this is like a horrible movie, but like I'm also not on board with saying it's like necessarily a good movie. It's something you can kind of put on in the background if you wanted to, like if you're sort of interested in the story, but like you're also doing something else around the house, like you can kind of have this on in the background, just kind of tune in every once in a while and be like, oh, that's happening, cool, and then like go about your day. Like you don't really need to like sit down and pay attention to this movie, because even when you do, like I did, like I took all my notes, and there's still parts that I'm confused about, stuff that's breezed over. There's a whole thing with a chaplain in this movie too, where it's like his last tour or something, and they throw him a surprise party, and then he is going on the water at some point and giving everybody their last rites, and then we don't
Yeah.
really see any of that, and then we get a blurb at the end of the movie where the Navy denied giving him the Naval Cross for his work in rescuing people, which I'm just like, why? Like, what the fuck? Like, you didn't fuck over enough people in this. Like, and McVeigh wasn't fully exonerated until the Clinton administration, which is wild. It like
Yeah.
took that long for them to like finally be like, oh yeah, no, this guy shouldn't have this on his record. I'm like, it's a little
Yeah.
too fucking late, but I guess better late than never. But like, fuck me, man.
Yeah, because we end the movie with some really well shot like talking head documentary stuff of some survivors,
Yeah.
you know, talking about what happened and the fear that they had and all this stuff, and then show like a Animal House-esque wrap up of like, well, and then this guy went on to do this, whatever, and they talk about Hashimoto became a Shinto priest and then joined the group to try to like get McVeigh exonerated of all of his charges, and it's like, I don't know, are you're just doing it for honor? I mean, his wife's dead, he's dead. They don't mention if he had any kids. Like they're just like it's been 40 years. We're gonna make ourselves feel a little better. It's been 40 years since he killed himself. We're gonna make
Yeah.
ourselves feel a little better by saying, okay, you didn't do anything wrong. Well, you know what? The dude killed himself. Like it's you already fucked up.
Yeah, and I'm sure that ceremony was like, okay, sign a piece of paper, take a photograph, put it in a newspaper, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, yeah. The dozen surviving people who are still around will see it and go, oh, that's nice.
Yeah. They're like, oh yeah, you know, too little too late, but great, I guess. Like, fuck.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, you were talking about how it's not. We both said it's not necessarily bad. It's not good, but I didn't check it in on Letterboxd yet. I didn't rate it, but it's not going to be high. And I mean, I was looking at my list of like how I've ranked some of his other movies.
Yeah.
And there's ones that I was bored by, but they're okay, whatever. And I'm looking at the bottom of the list, and I was like there's this movie Pay the Ghost that he did. It's another one of these Redbox movies where
Yeah.
he sees, I don't know, it's bad. But I was looking at it and I was like, that's my second lowest one on the list. And I was like, I'd still probably watch Pay the Ghost again before I watch this. It's like technically a better made movie.
Yeah.
But Pay the Ghost was also like 90 minutes.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Like,
And
I
there's
think
ghosts.
the runtime of this movie is detrimental to what it is and what's in it. Because this movie could benefit from having a long runtime. You could make a 3-hour movie out of this story, but not with this budget and the way that they chose to tell it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think a mini series, if you're trying to give the story credit, would be the best way to do it. And it doesn't have to be some huge, you know, we spent an astronomical amount of money making this thing, whatever. You just do a mini series. Shit, History Channel could do a mini series if they still talked about history, and it would be better than this.
That's so true. Yeah, like you could have a lower budget production telling this story as long as you have like people like acting very well in it and, you know, telling the facts, and it could still be interesting. It would be much different, but that's fine. But yeah, the way that they chose to do this is just like you said, they're trying to appease too many different type of people at once, and it just becomes a mishmash, because it's like the way they shot and like did some of the courtroom drama stuff. It's like, oh yeah, like this is our courtroom drama section of the movie, and it's just like, okay, but it doesn't really fit with everything else that you've been doing, and you're also not focusing enough on it, but you're still telling me I'm supposed to care about it, but I kind of don't because of the way you're showing it to me.
Yeah, it's like Mario Van Peebles had some stuff left on his bucket list. It's like movies he wanted to make, and he's like, I don't know how much longer I've got, so let's just make them all here.
Yeah.
We got a horror movie, a World War II drama, a courtroom drama, the story about young troops falling in love. Like, let's just get it all in here. We got this.
Yeah. Like, I would even say that there's probably parts of Pearl Harbor that handled certain aspects that could have been told in this movie better, which is saying something. But yeah, like, yeah, I don't know. My final thoughts on this are the story itself is fucked up, but as a movie, it's mediocre. I'm gonna give it 2, maybe 2.5 stars, just because like I think the message is there, but like they definitely would have benefited from like a little bit tighter storytelling, or choosing better parts of the story to actually focus more in on, and less of the personal stuff, because like this story doesn't need all that personal stuff at the beginning of this movie. Like, it's just too front loaded with nonsense like that, because they spend like 2 seconds on the like, oh yeah, so the plan is we're gonna have this ship go in and drop a bomb off, and then we just start getting into all these people's personal lives, and I'm just like, I'd be a little bit more interested in how they came up with this mission, and like the talks regarding around that. I feel like that would have been a little bit more interesting, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Some of the process, not just a bunch of kids jerking off in San Francisco.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where I'll land. I would probably like a 1.5, just because it was boring. There are parts where Van Peebles does shoot things well. I mentioned the kid playing the piano that he carved out of the side of his raft, and you can like hear the music. That whole scene is shot really well. It's this long slow motion thing. There's all these people in their rafts. Yeah, the sharks are weaving in and out of the rafts. It looks good. There are other parts that look horrendous. Nick Cage barely shows up. I mean, he's in this movie a lot more than some of those other ones I was talking about, but he's not doing anything. I saw a review on Letterboxd. I'll give the guy credit. It's a guy named Clint Worthington, who's like he's an actual, like, I think he's a film critic. He does podcasting and stuff. But I saw his review, and I really liked. I'll just read the first half of it, because I think it's the best summary of what we've just said for the last 90 minutes. An overamped History Channel reenactment, complete with Sharknado-level visual effects. There's a bone-deep earnestness here, a desire to honor fallen men and women of this extraordinary story, but Mario Van Peebles confuses sluggishness with solemnity. So it's like, if we make it slow, it's solemn, and that's exactly right. Like, it's just, it missed the mark on everything it was going for.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think 1.5 stars is a fair rating for it too, because of the things that we see and how the movie actually is.
Yeah.
I wouldn't fault anybody for like completely hating this movie either. Like, I can see like both ends of the spectrum for this, because like we've discussed, like they're trying to appease a lot of different people, and there's definitely people that will be appeased with this, and they will be very happy with what they see and how the story was told. But I think looking at it from a broader scale, like there's definitely things that they could have talked about that they didn't talk about or dive enough into. And again, like, one of the biggest things of this story is the shark attacks, because like that's one of the things that they talk about, is how they were picked off by sharks for 5 days. And we don't see a lot of that. We get a couple of cool moments, like I mentioned, but not enough to like where it should have been more of a focus.
We probably see 10 shark attacks total. Most of them are just splashes in the water, which is not.
And I would say there's like 2, maybe 3 that are like kind of cool to see.
Yeah.
In a manner of speaking. But yeah, like there's not enough of it to make me be like, recommend this movie to anybody. I would say, like, if you're a history buff, like, you might get something out of it. But also, if you're a history buff and you know the full story more than this movie's explored, then you might just be pissed off. Because I was also just pissed off at the end of this movie too. Like, when he's on trial and everything, I'm just like, I'm just angry now, because I'm just like, he's on fucking trial for fucking nothing. and I'm like, and I'm supposed to feel happy about all of this like courage and whatnot, and I'm just like, but I'm like, okay, that's great for all the soldiers and whatnot, but like, we're not focusing on how fucking shitty the military and government was during this whole thing. And I feel like they kind of breezed over. Again, that's just something they breezed over, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree. There's just missed opportunities abound.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, that's USS Indianapolis. Like I said, I'm gonna cover Mission of the Shark on Patreon. I haven't seen it yet. I can't imagine it's gonna be maybe it will be better than this movie. I really don't know what to expect. It's from the 90s. It has Stacy Keach. I mean, the fact that it's called Mission of the Shark makes me think that they're gonna focus more on the shark attack aspect of it. Granted, it's probably not going to be very well done, but I don't know. I got a little bit of hope, maybe. This has also been episode 2 or 3 of Month of Action, depending on when I get it edited. I don't know, so I'm not going to say definitively. I don't know if I mentioned that at the top of the episode, but I mean, last week I talked about Month of Action, and yeah. And speaking of Month of Action, why don't you tell us about your podcast too?
Yeah, so we do well, 2 different podcasts. One of them is involved with the month of action, even though the other one technically could be. But Bad Movies, Worst People. I got the shirt. See, check it out.
Hell yeah.
I wear my own merch because I'm a loser like that. Bad Movies, Worst People. We basically take a movie that could be considered bad, whether it's low budget, poorly acted, poorly received, or just, something that's too big a budget, whatever, something that could be considered bad for whatever reason. We watch it. We use that as a way to have really inappropriate conversations for about an hour and a half or so. And then at the end, we decide whether or not we recommend the movie. You can find us literally anywhere you get podcasts, or badmoviesworstpeople.com. And then social media is all Bad Movies Worst People. My co-host Jack and I do another one called Han Took Shots First. And it's about Star Wars. We get drunk. We talk about Star Wars. Right now we're talking about The Mandalorian because we're doing it all in chronological order. But Bad Movies Worst People is participating in the Month of Action, and depending on when this comes out, our upcoming episode on the Month of Action is going to be about Deep Blue Sea. Speaking of sharks,
Nice.
I didn't ask you to come on because I know you did a Deep Blue Sea episode. I think you did one on your own. I know you did one with B Action guys, and you've probably guessed it on other people's Deep Blue Sea episodes.
Deep Blue Sea, I had the B Action guys on my podcast for. I did, what was it, Red River Horror Podcast, where we sort of talked about that. I was on an episode with Steve Altman, the writer of the Meg novels.
Oh, nice.
So we sort of talked about that a little bit. I also wrote an article for their website. But yeah, then I also did like a live stream for, I think it was Our Life in Horror. Or no, Delight and Fright. It was Delight and Fright I was also on. So yeah, I did a few episodes on it already.
Yeah, so I figured, I was like, I'm not going to make Steve watch it again. Even though it's an awesome movie, it is bad. We do have a guest coming on that one, though. Another member of Month of Action. We have Dustin from,
Hell yeah.
Oh, God. Flicks and Friends, B Action, Barrens Hideout. At least 10 or 15 other podcasts, I think.
Yeah.
So he's going to be on that one.
He was on my episode for Deep Blue Sea, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gets to talk about it again. But I figured I wouldn't make you watch it for the 50th time. So that'll be that. We're doing a whole bunch of action movies, obviously. Some of them are less actiony than others. We covered The Electric State, which I mentioned. They call it an action movie, but they cut away during any action. So check that out. It's badmoviesworstpeople.com. Or you can find us on any of your social media. We're on TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff. And yeah, come check us out.
Yeah, I highly recommend. I've been a guest 3 times, I think. We've talked about Santa Jaws, Night of the Sharks, and Miami Connection.
Yes, yeah, you were on Santa Jaws, Night of the Shark, which was not about sharks, and and Miami Connection. And then we've been on your show before, so people might have heard us. We were on Shark Exorcist.
Yeah, the first episode of C6 Cinema, where I go back and review movies I hated. And now I've come around on Shark Exorcist as not completely hating it after that episode. So, and spoiler alerts for October, they will be back on for Shark Exorcist 2 Unholy Waters because we've started this journey. So now we have to finish it. because
Yeah,
the
it
fact
would-
that that movie even got a sequel like 10 years later is insane. So like we have to check that out.
And we'll be back for the end of the trilogy too in another 10 or 15 years, whenever they get around to it.
Well, yeah, I think that's all we have. Check this movie out. Don't check it out. I don't know what else to tell you guys.
I'd say don't, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I can't give it a hard recommend. Like, I don't think I can go up to anybody and be like, you have to see this movie. Like, if you want to watch Nick Cage movies, he's in this one. So there's that.
That he is.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, and we will definitely be guesting on each other's shows again at some point, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, check out their show and check out everybody else that's doing the Month of Action as well. There's a lot of great podcasts and content creators in on this. It should be a lot of fun. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys this week. So I'll see you guys next time for even more Bucket of Chum.
Yump.
That was one hell of an action sequence, soldier. I haven't seen shooting like that since the Battle of New Hope. The Month of Action couldn't have done it without you. Mission accomplished.